basically you're like saying that you need something like the Centennial Fund, one-stop shop. You know, you handle the documents, and you know they can take care of it. This is what you're trying to say. So they did it, I think, for the Centennial Fund at the time, before they merged, I think, to the, you know, credit bank. So I'm going to open the floor now to the audience to ask questions to the panelists over here. So we'll start by this gentleman, please. You can mention your name and, you know, from where you are, and then you can ask your question.
Okay. My name is Mazen Zaidi. I'm a PhD student at Warwick University in the UK. I just want to say that I agree with Mr. Basrawi about it's about how we get there or how fast we get there. It's not about money. And I think that corporates have a big role to play in Saudi Arabia, if they were international companies or multinational companies. I think that corporate venturing is one of the important things that many corporates around the world are using them as what they call like units to accelerate the entrepreneurship kind of startups. For example, in the UK, banks, airlines, even retailers have incubators and accelerators. So in the US, it's more, even Disneyland has an accelerator. But here in Saudi, what I notice is maybe Aramco is the only one that has a corporate venturing unit, which is wide, that doesn't just provide equity or provide like investment for equity. Actually, it tries to support through training and other kind of incubation, other kind of stuff. So I think that corporates have to get involved more in this, trying to boost entrepreneurship, and I would like to hear your comments on that.
I guess you said we're doing it, but we need to do more of it. But if you look around, from what I understand, the companies in Kingdom are doing it. I think STC has a venture capital arm that helps its business. You know, it looks at investing in companies that will help STC out. Mobali the same way, Taqniya the same way. Aramco has Saudi Aramco Energy Ventures. It's a sister company to ours, some sister company to WAD. They look at innovation all around the world, the top institutes, and they look for innovation that they can buy overseas to support Saudi Aramco's business, which and of course supports the kingdom as a whole. So I think you're right. We need corporate venturing, but what I love what Abdulaziz was saying, and I'm glad he said it, because I attended the Global Competitive Forum a couple of years ago in Riyadh, and there was a former minister and our minister and the head of Google on the panel. And I love this, I forgot the country, Eastern European country. He said something so profound, but if we did it, I think we don't need anything else, and it's the one-stop shop. He said his country was so lousy in bureaucracy many years ago because similar to ours, you go to 10, 15 different agencies to get one thing done. All they did was enforce a one ministry, one-stop shop ministry, that if you want to go and apply for a license for a shop, for example, or a small business, you go there and they run around the different ministries to get them done. So you have the job creation in the first place, but you also have the speed. And that changed the whole country from being a lousy company, I wish I remember, I'll look it up after this meeting, to something amazing. I think what stops us from doing that? What stops us from one-stop shops, for example? I think that's what we really need, more so than just the corporates doing a social responsibility for the kingdom.
I mean, not much to add to what Wasim said, but I mean, with the establishment of the General Authority for Small and Medium Enterprises, this is one of the areas that in the mandate, it's clearly mentioned that it is mandated with addressing some of the existing obstacles facing entrepreneurs, and we'll have to monitor the space. But I think this is one of the areas where clearly is something that we can improve on.
Other questions? Tfadal ya Abu Abdullah. You can please tell your name and also what it is.
This is okay. Khalid Al-Zamil. Actually, I want to comment on a one-stop shop. To tell you the truth, we operate in a sheikh-to-sheikh management system here in this country. And that system goes that the head of one organization would allow everything moves if he's communicated with another head of a large organization. That's what sheikh-to-sheikh management goes.
That's your definition, right?
That's my definition. That's a new terminology. I've been teaching entrepreneurship for the last 12 years, and I retired and I'm still teaching it. Anyway, the creation of one-stop shop and the Centennial Fund was there because the whole organization was issued by someone with authority, the son of the king. And that grabs this authority and get it moving. That's why when they created the investment organization. They wanted to support the movement of foreign investment, and they created the one-stop shop. Definitely, it's the solution. The government knows that. The problem is still the jurisdiction of each organization, thinking that the other organization doesn't understand, and necessarily they don't want to cooperate, but they assume that there are elements in their operation. But I think that's breaking down as we move in. But we should be patient somehow, because we're asking for. I'm not saying we should be slow. We definitely need to fast track everything. But if you go and compare entrepreneurship, as the panelist says, 4 or 5 years back, and Aramco, when he said the due diligence, I think when he says investor doesn't know it, I think there was a gap in communication further than a misunderstanding. Because investors know due diligence since they were born. But the idea is that terminology, that arena. So I think what we need is a further push from all players in the ecosystem toward the authority, like the new organization and the minister, and we will find it smoother. Being available, kind of, through a personal link. Al-Muaqqab, you're talking about the government agency, actually a good organization, Catalyst, like in the venture capitalist, where he's asked. Even family-owned companies playing as a venture capitalist, because of their good relationship with different ministries, they really get it accessed fast and smooth. I'm not talking about bribing the system, but I'm talking about being able to prove the national move. So actually what we need is a further investment in the system, developed by people like you, IEI, that show to the government we can facilitate that. And I think that will facilitate this one-stop shop, definitely.
Any other questions before we conclude the session? Please, Joe and Bernie. Joe and then Bernie.
What do you think the potential is for crowdfunding? I'm really expanding on your thought about you have the money, but you've got to catalyze some of it. Could you crowdfund some of the stuff you're doing? I mean, you have some great companies. These parallel sessions show you have great companies. Could you crowdfund?
Honestly, I've been hearing about it, and I don't think it's happened that much, but I think it's going to need to happen in the future. So I think crowdfunding is slowly coming over here. Inevitable. You'll need to do that, but we need trust of information. We need the proper IT. I think that's what we require to be able to do proper crowdfunding here.
I believe crowdfunding is going to come sooner or later to the kingdom. It is just building the regulation that can have this regulated in the kingdom. There is no current regulation that can regulate such type of business. But I have seen a lot of people interested in this type of of business crowdfunding, and they are just willing and waiting for it to be governed yeah. It is already, I believe it started already in UAE even. And I believe within the next 3 to 4 years we will have it here in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so my question moves us from crowdfunding to talking about the SME authority, which is very gratifying to learn about. I did a study 2 years ago for my university about the future of small to medium enterprises in the American middle class. And one of the things that I took away from that study, and I would love to hear from the panel, is the importance of knowledge that you need to provide to entrepreneurs and proprietors that start those enterprises. On one hand, they need to know about new technology, and they need to know about how IT can be used to develop their companies, and that certainly provides a role for a school like KFUPM. But the other interesting thing, and this ties to our discussion earlier today about venture, about the role of the corporations in developing an entrepreneurial mindset, is the need for information about supply chains. In the U.S., again, I can't give you the exact statistic, but a McKinsey report said Fortune 500 companies, are highly dependent. Something like 60% of their inputs come from SMEs. And the problem for SMEs, at least in the U.S., is most small firms do not know, unless they are plugged into the supply chain of a particular industry, where the opportunities are. And so, just one small example is, you know, in the aircraft industry, the aerospace industry in Southern California, an enormous number of the specialty parts are all made by little teeny tiny family companies. But what these people know is exactly what are the opportunities for Lockheed or the other large manufacturers. So having a map of where how the supply chain works and knowing that detailed information would be really powerful for the kind of entrepreneurial efforts that you're all working on.
Yeah, that's a very important point. It links back to my point on local content initiatives and the role of corporations in involving SMEs in their planning for increasing local content. One element of that is the procurement angle, where certain percentages are dedicated to specialty SMEs. But other topics in local content include communication on procurement spend and forecasting, and what are the guidelines that accelerate them being plugged into tier 1 and tier 2 supplier network. So that's a very important point. Local content probably needs a forum by itself, but we absolutely agree that's one of the areas that can.
You want to just follow up quickly?
The same point,
Then we have one last question.
just to add to this point, when this institute was created as an idea back 5 years back, actually, as one of the catalysts who worked in the design, the whole design came across that the government wanted something to capitalize on the offset programs they're doing with gas and oil. We created an agency that backed up by Aramco, SABIC, SEC, the telecommunication company, and one of the banks, and 2 government agencies. I wanted to push KFUPM being the person in charge. The director wanted the different institute, and that's how AEI. Now, the mandate of that creation, which was named RIADA, means entrepreneur or entrepreneurship, was to achieve in 5 years 10,000 project running live, well done, as a test on the market and the entrepreneurial spirit. We succeed. Today, we're getting 11,000 being prepared, and 10,000 of the, actually 9,000 plus, but we didn't finish 2015, in 5 years, running. Tier 2 or stage 2 of the idea that I had is that we're going to go around large corporations to start grabbing of them exactly what you're saying. And I started with the hospital businesses. And I've been communicating with people with chains and hospital businesses and getting of them ideas and matching that with entrusted parties in these ideas. And we're building that as a second tier because the government gives finances. They're going to pour money in that and willing to pour more money in the second idea. And I think we're coming to the idea you're talking soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Ustad Khalid. Just one last question because Abdullah has raised his hand. So, and then, we can just continue discussions after the forum. So, Abdullah.
I have 2 comments, but I will use one of them for the sake of time, okay? You mentioned the fact or the need for nationalizing entrepreneurship or involving the government in that. And I think that's a really good point, which is to an extent moving away from the American system of complete capitalism. You get a lot of money out of that, you get a lot of profits, you get a lot of companies, but if you look at the individual effect of that, you see the middle class, for example, in the US is diminishing because of that. Not everyone can be a CEO, not everyone can be a co-founder of a company. And if you look on how corporates have dealt with starting companies in the US, it's very harsh and it's very hard on individuals who work for these, even though there's a lot of job creation and so forth and so on. So I think that's a very important point. We should, a little bit skew from the American model to an extent. That's just my comment.
Okay, at this moment I would like to thank, the distinguished panelists. I think we enjoyed, the discussions here, and, it seems that we have a very bright future coming for entrepreneurship. Everybody is optimistic, apparently, and, having such new initiatives like a one-stop, shop for everyone just to go in, it could be like a main driver, for this acceleration that you folks have been talking about. And with this, we conclude the session. I would like to ask Mohammed Shukri to come because we have something for the audience who attended here. I mean, not you guys, of course. It's like the audience. So I'm going to handle the mic to Mohammed. And if you allow me, just let's give hand to the panelists here. So.